Welcome to episode 40 of the LinguaFox Podcast. 40 episodes. That's a number I never imagined saying out loud when this podcast began. And I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate this than by walking you through something every single one of us can relate to: the stages of language learning. Do you remember the very first phrase that you learned in a foreign language? Well, for some, it might have been, "Hello, my name is." For some others, something more practical, like, "Where's the bathroom?" That simple phrase, awkward, broken, maybe even mispronounced, was the beginning of a journey. A 7-stage adventure that takes us from survival phrases all the way down to true mastery. Today, I'll guide you through these 7 stages. I'll share examples, little anecdotes from my own teaching, and learning experiences with learners around the world, and tips you can use to move forward no matter which stage you're in right now. Think of this as both a map of the path ahead and a mirror of where you stand. Stage 1, the survival stage. Well, stage 1 is where most of us start. Survival. You don't have sentences yet? Not really. You have phrases, ready-made chunks. You're not building, you're just repeating. I remember a story from a student of mine once in Amsterdam saying, "I wanted to ask for a glass of water. Instead, I ended up with sparkling water, which I hate." You might ask, why? Well, because his vocabulary was limited to a memorized line and he didn't know how to clarify. This stage is humbling, but it's also liberating. With just a handful of expressions, you can suddenly move through the world in a new way. You can order food, buy a ticket, or greet a stranger. Well, my tip here is to focus on utility over perfection. Don't worry about grammar. Think about survival. What do you need to say today? Learn that and use it. Stage 2, the imitation stage. Stage 2 is all about imitation. You sound like a parrot. And that's not an insult. That's progress. At this stage, learners copy intonation, accents, and rhythm. They repeat what they hear without really understanding the grammar behind it. Think of a child saying, "How are you?" in perfect rhythm, but not knowing what "are" really means. I've seen countless students who repeat phrases from TV shows or YouTube clips, and they sound surprisingly natural. That's the beauty of imitation. My tip here is that try shadowing. Play a short clip and repeat every sound, every pause, and every rhythm. It feels mechanical at first, but it's laying the foundation for natural fluency to occur. Stage 3, the building block stage. Well, stage 3 is where creativity begins. You start building your own sentences with the few tools you have. They're messy, but they are yours. I once had a student who proudly announced, "I go store now." Not correct, but absolutely communicative. That's a milestone worth celebrating. This stage is frustrating because mistakes multiply, but those mistakes are signs of growth, not failure. So, what I'm saying is that you need to celebrate clarity over correctness. If you're understood, that's a victory. The polish will come later. Stage 4, the confidence plateau. Well, stage 4 is a little bit tricky. The plateau. You can handle everyday conversations. You order food without thinking, chat with friends, even watch simple shows, but something feels stuck. You keep using the same words, the same structures, the same tense, usually the present. Well, I once had a student tell me, "I feel like I'm speaking, but I'm not improving." That's exactly what the plateau feels like. And the cure? Well, break free from the routine. Narrow your focus to the content that you love. Instead of learning English in general, dive into a podcast about cooking or binge watch a series in your target language. That way, your brain meets fresh patterns, new words, and authentic structures. Stage 5, the expansion stage. Well, Stage 5 is where things open up. Vocabulary grows, sentences stretch, you start experimenting. You're bold enough to use idioms, try past tense, or even crack a joke. I'll never forget the day a student of mine made a perfect sarcastic remark in English. Everybody laughed. Honestly, that moment told me that they had crossed into real communication. So what I want you to do is to practice output, journal daily, record voice notes, or better yet, teach what you've learned. Because when you explain a grammar point or a phrase to someone else, it sticks. Stage 6 is the identity stage. Well, stage 6 is one of my favorites, honestly, identity. This is when the language stops being just a tool and starts becoming part of you. You catch yourself thinking in it, you dream in it, you argue in it, and you don't translate, you just are. I once caught myself switching languages mid-thought without realizing. That's when I knew my brain had absorbed the identity of the language. What I want you to do is to place yourself in roles where the language defines you. Join an online book club, participate in group projects, or create content in your target language. It's not about studying anymore. It's about living. Stage 7. The mastery stage. Well, and then comes mastery. Let's be clear. Mastery doesn't mean perfection. It means flexibility, nuance, playfulness. At this stage, you understand puns, double meanings, cultural references. You can navigate subtle social cues. You're no longer using a language, you're participating in a culture. For me, one of those moments was reading Shakespeare and catching not just the meaning, but the humor. I laughed out loud, and I realized at that moment that this is more than English. It's human expression. So stop chasing perfection. Mastery is not flawless grammar. It's confident play. Experiment with words, tone, and humor. That's true freedom. These are the 7 stages of language learning: survival, imitation, building blocks, the plateau, expansion, identity, and mastery. As we celebrate episode 40, I realized that LinguaFox itself has gone through similar stages, from early experimental beginnings to a growing community of listeners worldwide. And just like language learning, this podcast is still evolving. Which stage are you in right now? Maybe you're still surviving. Maybe you have hit the plateau, or maybe you're blending identity and mastery. Wherever you are, you're part of this journey. I'd love to hear from you. Which stage are you in right now, and what's been your biggest challenge along the way? Share your thoughts in the comment section or send me a direct message on Instagram. Your story could inspire a future episode. And if today's episode gave you clarity or motivation, please follow LinguaFox, leave a review, and share this episode with a fellow learner. Let's make this journey something we all celebrate together. And here's a teaser. In the next episode, we'll be tackling a hidden challenge most learners face, one that textbooks almost never talk about. So stay tuned. Thank you for listening to LinguaFox. Here's to episode 40 and to the many stages of language learning that still lie ahead. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.